Hello YouTube, Jonathan here and welcome to the TFX reviews portion of my channel. So today we are going to be covering Todd Phillips' Joker starring Joaquin Phoenix. Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix of Walk the Line, Gladiator and Signs fame as Arthur Fleck. This tells a story of one man's struggles of rejection in society and mental health issues, which eventually progress him into becoming the Clown Prince of Crime that we all know and love from the DC universe. The movie had a lot of controversy hit at it up to its release regarding the use of gun violence and mental health issues in general, with people such as Arthur. So to quickly get this off my system, I think this was more or less an attempt from the minority of people who don't want to see this being reflected in a movie overall, and I think it's ridiculous really, but because when you look at the likes of Logan and Deadpool, which have all promoted violence in more of an extreme way than Joker has, it makes no sense to attack it in this real fashion. And there's even true life movies like Monster and any of the movies based on Ted Bundy. They all promote extreme violence, which, you know, it's just a film, it's just a movie, but there's too many people out there that cry about issues like this, trying to give it a bad reputation, as to think it's going to start something new, or the fact that it's already what you could say a part of a world in which we all live in now. We're not supposed to feel sorry for these people, you know. I just think it's all been blown way out of proportion, but it hasn't really affected the movie on a whole in terms of its box office gross. It's done absolutely phenomenal for that, and you know, really have to take my hat off to the filmmakers for this. But if you're one of the majority of the people that is concerned about the nature and maturity of the film and what it represents, it's not the movie for you. But if you're curious and just want to enjoy it for what it is, kind of leading up to with regards to its universe, then check it out. You know, it is a really good movie. So Stuckman and Flickpick have given their thoughts on the film, as well as Mr. H and a lot of other people. I mean, I'm the last one in the line to probably talk about this film in terms of reviews. I'm pretty much at a loose end for that very reason, to be honest. But anyway, Batman and his universe have ran dry in recent years, so my hopes for Matt Reeves' incarnation of the Batman are slim at best. But like Chris and John, I also grew up with the series and run of hit and miss movies that the Caped Crusader created by Bob Kane in 1939's issue number 27. So I was intrigued when this came up. A character study of the Joker, it could be interesting. How are they going to take it? Joaquin Phoenix and comedy writer and director Todd Phillips at the helm. What's going to become of the Clown Prince of Crime? That's what was really going through my mind at the time when this was under production. So what can I say about this film? I just think this Joker's fabulous. It really is. There's nothing I don't like about this movie. Sorry, film. This is a pure work of art. Todd Phillips of the Hangover trilogy and Road Trip writes and directs this masterclass of a movie which captivated me from start to finish. The attention to detail and pure heart that is put into telling this story of torment and rejection is Oscar-worthy material, to say the least, despite how divided it is in opinion. Nevertheless, it would be a major mistake if it didn't even get a nomination, and I think it should at least get a nomination in my opinion anyway. So considering the likes of Marvel being recognised as being Oscar-worthy material as well, and casting Joaquin as Arthur is undoubtedly the best thing that could have happened for the film. He's absolutely amazing in the role. I simply couldn't compare this iteration of this character to what Heath Ledger did in The Dark Knight, and the reason for this is the fact that when Chris wrote the Joker in the Dark Knight, he was already an established character from the build-up we got from Batman Begins, so it gave Chris the time to flush out the Joker's agenda throughout the film, which is what made the Dark Knight, which is what made the film work so well. So evidently, this one that we've got here is just the beginnings of what could possibly be, and that's why Joaquin's performance shouldn't be compared to Heath's, for the notion that this is an origins character study of what could potentially be. Now having to deal with mental illness, Arthur's a character who for the most part is a person you would normally feel sorry for in some way, shape or form, and understand his position and views on society as we see it. You can really see the torment in Arthur throughout the first act of the film, and how hard he's trying to suppress his feelings, even though he does have treatment for his problems. It's evident that he's really trying hard not to let it get in the way of his everyday life and routine, but that's until his counselling sessions are abruptly stopped. And this is more or less a subtle turning point as to when we see Arthur lose touch with everything around him, and from here the tautness is increased by a factor of 10. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up on end for the remainder of the film on my first screening of this, even when there was one of those random moments of comedy thrown in to balance the tightness of the screenplay. But what caught me off guard was Joaquin's on-screen performance and how he embodied Arthur as an individual who has so much anguish and perplexity in himself to becoming this archaic yet content individual who doesn't give two shits anymore. This transition worked extremely well and was pulled off much better than I initially thought at the time. A lot of these emotions really resonated in some sense throughout the movie, which is obvious, I know, but this makes us understand Arthur as a character and an unstable individual. This brings me to some scenes that come into play in the latter half of Joker that contradict earlier ones, which beg the question how much of the film was real from Arthur's imagination going wild. Even the last 10 minutes of the movie leaves us scratching our heads as to whether something is new in the works at Warner Brothers. Will it be another character study with this universe? Who knows? I'd love to see it happen, to be honest. There's a few people out there that will probably agree with me on that. Now, Chris and John have already mentioned the inspiration from Taxi Driver, which I do agree with to a degree, but what I don't get is the references and overall style being somewhat straight from the movie are a put off. To me it isn't, and it doesn't matter in my opinion, and my opinions for this, my And my reasons for this is the fact that there isn't any other way it could have been done given the time era that it was set in. Even with the history of character study movies with the likes of Citizen Kane and American Psycho, they were set in a specific time era, and it was that present day time era that they were filmed in. You know, American Psycho was set in the present day of the noughties, and even though Citizen Kane jumped between past, present and future, it was still a film from the 1940s. My point being is that without being disrespectful to those who reduced the marks because references to a classic movie took away their viewing pleasure, what did you expect from Joker, which was set in an era where Taxi Driver at the time was a present day short movie with the same premise? I understand where you're coming from, but it doesn't. To me, it doesn't make any difference whatsoever, and I actually like the fact that they took that inspiration and translated it into a different story. And also the cinematography is really quite something and really speaks for itself. It looks like it's been filmed in the time period of the late 70s and early 80s, which to be fair takes me back to the point that I've just made. New York is the perfect setting for Gotham City. It's got the loudness, it's got the griminess and the dirtiness, and nice little nods to the what you guys in the States call the garbage crisis that was going on in that time period as well. It emulates really well, especially in the previous Batman movies, and it's a nice change from the clean-cut approach that Chris Nolan had with his Dark Knight trilogy as well. The lighting is also very well executed in the evening shots, The latter half of the tube scene in particular is a good example of this, where we see Arthur running from the crime he's committed through what some would consider self-defense within a volatile situation. This is the penultimate scene in the film, which makes Arthur's transition into madness and his beliefs from what is right from wrong. And it's a very visceral moment, but it's by far not the only one. The use of the slow-moving single-shot scenes work really well, as they're used as building moments, which are not used to an extreme level, almost reminiscent to Spielberg's camera work techniques in a few of his movies, such as The Lost World, Duel and Munich. Now that point, I do have to say, is it's not straight from his review. Well, it is, but it's worth talking about those single shot scenes because they're just so good and they draw you in so well. But I just wanted to throw that in to say thank you to Chris Stuckman for picking up on this. I hope you're listening to this, Chris, and if you think that I'm copying from you, I'm really not. I'm just being really grateful that you pick up on things like this, because you get there before me and you say exactly what I want to say. So it's just one of those things, and you're good at what you do, and I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to try and copy you in any way, shape or form. Now, I've gone somewhat on record regarding the Wayne family story arc within Joker, and I am aware that this is primarily a standalone film as a character study, but as everybody said, it wouldn't be a Joker movie without these elements there, but there are just enough to make us aware of where it stands potentially without having to double down on Arthur's story, which makes the film even more compelling from a universe standoff. And it would be nice to see more movies in this franchise being made with this overall structure as a character study, as I've said before. So on my second viewing, I found that I'd not really missed anything. The attention to detail and developments throughout have been handled really well, almost too well to be honest, given the fact that Arthur is in every single scene in the film. While talking to my friend who I went with this second time around, we both agreed with this, and even though we were still scratching our heads trying to work out how much was Arthur's imagination going wild, and like I said, from what was real in the movie, Joker is one of those films that will be talked about for many years to come for a number of reasons. Some I've already spoken about in this review, or at least I've actually tried to, but in hindsight this is a contemporary piece of work which has succeeded to enormous heights and deserves to be helmed as a modern classic for a new generation, which is something that we haven't had for quite some time. Now, this is actually going to happen in this review. I know I've not done many of them since I started YouTube, and it probably won't be the last one that I'm going to give this score to. Joker gets a 10 out of 10.
Okay everybody, so those were my thoughts on Joker. What did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Were you somewhere in the middle about it? Let me know in the comments down below what you thought. Now, again, I do this in every single video. The fact that I've been late with this review, I do owe apologies to some for not getting it out quick enough. Like I say, I've had other things on, like the horror con that I went to. I've had work and numerous other things that I've been up to in the last few weeks. So I thought it would, you know, it's just one of those things. Like I say, I'm a full-time worker, so I just have to get it out when I can. And if you're kind of wondering why the audio is a little different now to what it was in the actual video, it's because at the time that I put the commentary through the suite, I had a bit of a cold and I was a little bit blocked up in the nose and in the head generally. So I'm hoping that when it comes up to uploading it, that it kind of sorts itself out with all, as well as with all the adjustments that I made to the audio as well. So that's why there's a bit of a difference between me sounding like I am now while I'm doing the review. But I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did like it, make sure to hit that like button, share it about, talk about it between yourselves in the comments below. Be really interesting to see what you guys thought of the film. So that's just about it for now, guys. So this is me, Trekflix, signing off.